KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center. The caregivers of San Juan Regional Medical Center are committed to bettering the quality of life, health, and care of individuals, families, and our communities. Life is their sacred trust. Better is their mission. Here is their home. San Juan Regional Medical Center, improving the health of the Four Corners since 1910. 11 minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Thursday morning, the 13th day of April, 2023. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Michlin, and thank you for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM over the air, of course, here in San Juan County, New Mexico. 103.3 FM up in Durango, Colorado, and streaming everywhere else on the planet from our website, of course, which you can always find at ksje.com. We want to also welcome our viewers who are watching this visual radio program. The video is streaming out live this morning to the KSJE Facebook page and our YouTube account. So we're glad that you are with us this morning, everybody, because coming up in the next few moments, my conversation with Arvin Trujillo. And we are talking with Arvin Trujillo about his new job. You may remember my conversations with him as he was Executive Director of Four Corners Economic Development, but he has a new job to share with us this morning, so he's wearing a little different hat today, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the next few moments right here on KSJE. Then later on this morning, I'll be checking in with Thomas Heuser, the music director, of course, with the San Juan Symphony. They've got a concert coming up later on this month, of course, to wrap up their big season. That and more coming up with him at 8:50 a.m. here on KSJE Radio this morning. Mick S. will be here roving with the arts, our classical music program that begins next hour after the news at 9:06 on KSJE. We also want to remind you that you can connect with us on our Instagram page in addition to Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. And if you're a podcast person, you can find and subscribe to KSJE Podcasts wherever you listen to podcasts. So check us out and subscribe and maybe discover a new local program that you may have missed recently. Outside our studios here at San Juan College, it's a cloudy morning so far. We're expecting a mostly cloudy day today, as a matter of fact. 55 degrees at the moment, and the high today reaching 68 this afternoon. But those winds are going to pick up this afternoon. We could see wind gusts around 20 to 25 miles per hour. Windy overnight tonight with a low near 46. Then a chance of showers tomorrow. A 50% chance of rain on Friday with partly cloudy skies. The high 56 tomorrow, 32 Friday night. Sunshine returns on Saturday with a high near 58 degrees. Sunny and warmer on Sunday with a high of 68 degrees. But overnight lows, take a look, still around 29 degrees on Saturday, 37 on Sunday. Well, let me introduce my guest who is here with me this morning. He is back for what has been a regular visit, but now he has a new job. But we're going to still talk to him about some of the things that he is working on. Arvin Trujillo is here. He is now the Executive Administrator for the Navajo Nation President's Office, and he's also a Senior Advisor in the President's Office. Arvin Trujillo, welcome back.
Good morning, Scott. It's good to be back.
Good to have you here, and congratulations on this new job, new path for you and working with the new administration in Window Rock.
Yeah, we were just talking, this is day number 10 for me.
Day 10,
right now.
Right. So you've got it all figured out.
I got it all figured out.
Right. Well, good for you.
I know where my office is.
Well, that's important. That's a good first step for sure. Lots to absorb, I'm sure, making a switch like this. But still, a lot of it is based on your skill sets that you bring with you to this new job, right? I mean, you worked for the tribe before. You've worked in the energy industry, of course, most recently working with Four Corners Economic Development, and all those things, I think, are probably the reasons why the president wanted you on his team.
Well, again, having that experience and having the foreknowledge, being at the nation before, really adds to my abilities to kind of step in and kind of get moving a lot more quicker than other folks may be able to. So I'm just getting caught up with what's going on now. Most of my references are from the 1999 to 2010 period. And so again, it's just catching up on those years as to what has happened and where are things at now, and where do we want to go based
Right.
off of what the president would like to see achieved.
And that's the last time you worked for the Navajo Nation?
Yes, 2010 is when I left, and
What were you doing for them at that time?
at that point I was the executive director for the Division of Natural Resources. So I was a cabinet member under both President Kelsey Begay and President Joe Shirley.
Okay. All right. And here you are with President Bu Nigrin. And so you've been kind of tasked with maybe organizing some of the divisions and departments under his executive branch of Navajo Nation government. Is that kind of where you're focusing so far?
That's what I'm focusing on right now. We're looking at strategic planning and how do we effectively look at bringing the executive branch together, and how do we help them develop a process by which you can get good communications. You're beginning to address issues. There are a myriad of things happening on the nation. How do we look at those areas more efficiently, more effectively? And so again, that's where I'm working on how to connect the executive branch as a whole, with the office of the president being at the top of that.
Sure. And as you and I have talked here before, from your position with Four Corners Economic Development, there are a lot of issues that affect both the Navajo Nation and the neighboring bordering communities like Farmington, like San Juan County. So I'm sure a lot of these issues are going to be coming up in your conversations at your new job, like power plants and energy and employment and all those things, right?
No, again, those issues are there. I mean, you're looking at energy, and just like San Juan County here, the nation has been very much dependent upon coal, oil, and gas development. And so where do they go now as things are transitioning? Looking at what we've been able to do here in the Four Corners region, you have other border town areas. You have Page, you have Gallup,
right?
You have Flagstaff. And so how do we effectively begin to partner up with some of the other border towns and come up with some strategies that would be beneficial to those regions? And so again, there seems to be some real opportunities here to begin to expand, because we're all in the same boat. We're all looking at where do we go next now that, as I've said time and time again, coal, oil, and gas have been tremendous benefactors for us over the decades, and more importantly for the Navajo Nation. But now all of that's changing, and so what is the plan B? Where do we go from here?
Right. And the Navajo Nation has a few tools in its toolkit when you talk about things like that. One I would think that comes to mind is NTEC, the Navajo Transitional Energy Company, which is kind of a separate yet tribal entity of its own, correct?
Yeah, in terms of energy, you have NTEC. In distribution, you have NTUA.
The Tribal Utility Authority.
Tribal
right?
Utility Authority.
Yep.
Construction, you have the Engineering and Construction Authority, NECA.
Right.
Farming, we've talked many times about NAPI, and you've got that. You've got the shopping centers that are on the nation. And so again, there are a number of areas that we can begin to look at to see what do we do, not only in infrastructure development, but what do we begin to look at in terms of economic development, and how do we take advantage of that? And more importantly, how do we do so in a manner that really begins to lift the full region here? And so we are all working at this in partnership.
Right. True.
So again, those are some of the things I'm looking at right now. But like I said, I've been in the position for 10 days right now. And so,
right.
I'm just getting my feet wet. I'm beginning to understand what the issues are, what areas are the priority areas at this point. I still need to start meeting council delegates and get my relationships building with them. And so there's still a lot of work to be done right now. But I feel good about where I'm at.
Sure. Well, and again, to get things done, right? I mean, again, any politician worth his weight is going to want to be concerned about jobs for the residents, right? And economic development and for needs of the residents, whether it's infrastructure or power and water and things along that line, and
Exactly.
safety. All those things, no matter where you live, is stuff that's important to people everywhere.
Yes. Again, what we're looking at is providing services for our constituencies here within the reservation, but also expanding out looking at the urban areas. We have Navajos who live there in large numbers. The border town areas, we have a number of Navajos who live in those areas. How do we provide services, and how do we look to these pockets of the population, and how do we assist them in areas that they may need assistance with? So again, it's a whole new ball game right now. And I'm kind of looking at things from that vantage point, and having the opportunity to work here in the San Juan County area and seeing how things are being done here and how our interactions were with the Navajo Nation. How do I use that knowledge to not only look at furthering the relationship here in San Juan County, but as I said, we've got other regions of the Navajo Nation that interact with communities off the reservation. So how do we forge those relationships?
Right. One of the projects you and I have talked about a lot is the rail project that would certainly need the cooperation of the Navajo Nation with the state of New Mexico and San Juan County and probably McKinley County to move forward. That you bring a lot of, I think, knowledge about that project to your new job. And talking with the tribe and the president's office about that, I think they were on board before. And with you in that position, maybe you can help to maybe move that forward, or at least keep in communication with the other folks that are involved with this project? Yeah,
I mean, you're looking at rail. And just recently, the governor, I think just a couple of days ago, the governor sent out a press release that the hydrogen hub projects or the application was sent to the Department of Energy, and the Western Interstate Hub Alliance has submitted that application. And, there are 3 projects here in San Juan County. One of them is on the Navajo reservation. And so again, how do we look at that, and how do we begin to partner that? Is this an alternative? Is this an option that we have available to us? And so, like I said, there's some things that are really coming together right now, and I'm looking forward to really seeing what that can do to help.
Sure. When you shift your gears a little bit, right, and start looking at the Navajo Nation now as your constituency and what you're dealing with, the rail project to me again would offer economic benefits to the eastern agency and the Crown Point area maybe as well, depending on the route, of course, as we always have talked about, the Thorough area and all these different other areas across the eastern side of the reservation, right?
Right, along the foothills of the Cheska and the Lecachagay mountain ranges. You're looking at opportunities there. But again, there's going to have to be a lot of education as we go through this process. And the idea is to garner support as we move forward. But as we begin to look at this type of development here within this portion of the reservation, how can we use those learnings to expand that to other portions of the reservation so that they also see benefits from development within their regions? And so again, I'm really looking at how we might be able to develop some plans that would really begin to enhance and really kind of give us that plan B with coal in its transition, the shutdown of, we've gotten the Mojave Generating Station shut down in Laughlin. We've got NGS, Navajo Generating Station, that shut down in Page. We're looking at Cholla shutting down in 25. We're looking at Coronado shutting down, which, again, that's where Pittsburgh Midway used to supply coal. That coal mine is shut down. We're seeing impacts from San Juan Generating Station because we had about between 25-30% of those operations were Navajo. So right now, the only one left is Four Corners Power Plant, and they're looking to leave in 2031. So again, what are those options for us? And we're in this together. Right. True. And a lot of these are big, impactful decisions, right? That will impact a lot of folks, positively or negatively, depending on how it goes. Yes. And the president is being quite aggressive in terms of saying, what is it we need to do? Where do we need to put our priorities? How do we make this work? And how do we move forward as quickly as possible? And so again, that's where my job initially is going to be looking at the strategic development. And how do we do that so that we can become more efficient as we move forward? We can focus on those priorities that need to happen. And just like everybody else, all the different governments, all the companies, we're also struggling with getting people hired. And so again, that's going to be another priority as we begin to move forward, is to rebuild our workforce and get that in place also. And so those are some of the things that we'll be looking at.
Right, right. These are really big picture things from my perspective, at least, right? Of these maybe making some decisions today that will provide some long-lasting benefits to the reservation and to the residents that live in these communities, right?
Right.
And so a lot of these could be really just making the groundwork now to move forward in the future. In the next 10 years, 20 years, who knows?
We're looking at how are things going to be changed so that 10 years from now we actually see changes that are happening. And we're beginning to see the benefits that we can build and grow off of that. And more importantly, we're in a position to where now we have our young people coming back and moving back into the region, whether Navajo or non-Navajo, moving back into the region and really establishing their homes and becoming a part of the community. Because again, we've seen the exit of a lot of our young people. So again, how do we bring them back, and how do we get them to participate in these endeavors as we move forward?
Right. Right. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, too, and you mentioned the shopping centers that are on the reservation, but I know folks always talk about the retail and things like that, and certainly the Border Towns enjoys a great relationship with the residents of the Navajo Nation. There's a lot of economic impact to Farmington, to Page, as you mentioned, to Flagstaff, to Gallup, but a lot of folks on the reservation, I think, say, why don't we have a Walmart on the reservation so we wouldn't have to drive to these border towns? Is that something that that the administration is looking at to try to maybe streamline some of those procedures to do some of that, or work with some of these big, large mega corporations? I know that that's a lot to ask.
Well, right now, there's certain areas that we're going to have to tackle on a policy basis, looking at the reservation. But the nation is looking at those areas and saying, what can we do to really begin to look at the development of businesses on the reservation. We've got businesses on the reservation, but how do we begin to expand that aspect? How can we look at retail? How do we provide services there on the reservation? Because again, people driving here, it's a 2-hour drive from Kayenta to come here and to do your shopping. And so again, are there ways that we can work through those aspects and see if we can bring things to the Navajo Nation? So again, those are things that I think people are looking at in the back of their minds. But again, the idea, I think the focus right now is how do we really get jobs there on the reservation, and how do we support and promote that aspect of it? And then how do we also help small businesses and really begin to promote that aspect of development on the reservation? And so again, a lot of things to think about.
Yes.
Do I have the answers right now? No. But again, it's things that I've looked at before, and I think I've got some better insights now with the experience that I've been able to attain since I left in 2010. And, working for Arizona Public Service companies brought me a lot of insight looking at energy and energy development. And then working for ForSed has brought me a lot of insight looking at economic development, business retention and expansion, business recruitment, and really looking at how do you move forward in a manner by which you have a base plan in place that you begin to implement, and how do you make that work? And so again, those are some of the things I'm hoping to bring to the nation, and I'm hoping to be a positive force, helping the nation achieve some of the goals and helping the president achieve some of the vision that he's looking at for the next 4 and looking at possibly the next 8 years.
Right, sure. Of course, the president, the executive, is just one branch of the Navajo Nation government. You mentioned doing some outreach to the tribal council and meeting some of those council delegates, and certainly, I think for anything to happen, you need support of at least most of the tribal delegation, right? The tribal
That's right.
council. And so that's an important thing too, is that maybe compromise when you talk about politics, and working together and trying to get some of the other folks on your side or to understand and just moving forward together in compromise.
It's looking at that piece and how do you effectively advocate for things that you're working on. And again, a lot of that comes back to how do you interact, how do you educate, how do you listen to council delegates, because again, the idea is, as we have these discussions, is there a way that we can come up with solutions that where we meet a lot of the aspects that we're both looking for? And sometimes it takes that debate, it takes those types of discussions to really come up with even a better idea. And so again, that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. They are an integral part of the Navajo Nation government. And so again, it's looking at forging those relationships and helping them understand what we're wanting to achieve as we move forward, and make sure that we can find ways to work together as we move forward in this new realm. Because again, we're all looking at change, and change isn't easy. And sometimes change is scary to people. But we've got to look at that change, and we've got to figure out how do we do that, and how do we do that in the most effective way. And so that's kind of what I'm looking forward with as I start moving with the Navajo Nation government. And it's something that I really didn't think I'd be back in doing, but things just turned certain ways, and suddenly I found myself back here. And so looking forward to these challenges and seeing what I can do to really bring prosperity to the region here.
Right.
And not only looking at the region, but really looking at the Navajo Nation as a whole.
Sure, of course. How did that come about? Would you mind telling us the story of the job offer? Did they call you? Did you call them? Did you talk
I've been spoken to a couple times by the president, and again, at that point, I was of the opinion, maybe not. But as time went forward, there were some things happening with Forsyth also, and so it just seemed to come together to say, well, maybe this is a time to forge that relationship, because we were looking at how to really look at these projects, like the rail project, like the hydrogen project, like the pump storage project, things of that nature. And I think I did as much as I could from Forsyth's side. So again, looking at, well, maybe coming back from the nation's side, that would afford me more opportunity to get some of these things moving. And so again, the offer came back again, and so after some discussion, I kind of said, okay.
No, they were persistent.
They were persistent.
Is what it sounds like
Yes.
to me. So,
Yes.
Very good. My guest this morning, Arvin Trujillo, is here. He is the Executive Administrator and Senior Advisor to the Navajo Nation President. That's his new job. He's been on the job for 10 whole days, and he's agreed to come in and talk with me a little bit about that. The one thing we were both talking about before we came on the air this morning that I think is really fascinating is the visit to the Navajo Nation of Tony Hawk. Just recently, right? The last couple of days in Two Gray Hills, because his foundation, if I have the story correct, helped pay for a new skate park for kids and adults in that Two Gray Hills area, and he went out to open it up and dedicate it, and the president was there showing some of his moves, it sounds like to me.
Exactly. It's on Facebook.
How about that?
And the president was out there skateboarding. So
Never too old.
Never too old.
I guess. Good for him. But I guess that's maybe an example of some of these partnerships and things for someone like Tony Hawk to come in with some dollars in his pocket and to provide this for that neighborhood and for those kids and adults that maybe, I don't know where the nearest skate park was before this one was built, but probably not close.
Not close. And again, it's looking at those opportunities. The Navajo Nation has received a lot of notoriety because of the COVID aspects and things, that the challenges that the nation had to go through during that period. And so again, we're looking at how do we foster those relationships, and how do we work these relationships in a way that benefits outside entities who want to come and help the nation out, but how do they best help us, and how do we partner and forge those relationships? And so again, it's looking at those pieces and seeing what we can do to really find opportunities, not only for the nation as a whole, but even for our communities like Two Gray Hills. Finding that opportunity for their young people so that they can have a place to go and have some recreation and do what they like to do. And so again, it's just looking at those pieces and saying, how do we continue to do this effort? So, it was real interesting just watching him that, and for me, it was really different. Kind of saying, well, there's the president of the Navajo Nation skateboarding.
Right, sure.
And putting on some good moves.
Apparently, right? Yeah. He has some skills, it sounds like to me. So there you go. And it sounds like to me, with just a couple minutes remaining this morning, Arvin Trujillo, that the Navajo Nation is really looking at more maybe self-determination than maybe it had in the past. Instead of inviting other companies onto the reservation to develop some of these resources, it has taken the initiative of creating NTUA, for example, or NTEC, or some of the others that we've talked about, to really do this on their own necessarily, and having more control maybe over some of these things. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, the president is really looking at how the nation can actively participate in a lot of these different projects, and he's interested in seeing how, as we forge these new projects and develop these new job opportunities and et cetera, how can the nation also be a participant in those projects and do it actively? And so again, how that develops is, will depend on looking at the project and negotiations and figure things out. Does it mean ownership? It could be. Does it mean a joint venture? Does it mean a different type of partnership? Again, those questions will be asked in the future, but he's really looking at how the nation can participate in a lot of these types of efforts. And so that's kind of what we're looking at, and we're getting developing those partnerships at the federal government level, and we're having dialogue with state officials, and really begin to look at that. But what I'm also looking at is how do we have that dialogue with local officials here off the reservation in the border town areas. I mean, to me, there are real opportunities there too.
Right. And again, when we think about the Navajo Nation, again, it's a pretty important economic force when you talk about what it means for the parts of the three states where it is geographically located. It's the largest Native American tribe in the country by geography. The population is certainly substantial as well. The labor force, all these different things that make it certainly someone in a group to be reckoned with when we talk about economic development and job creation and all these different things, right? Yeah.
And again, those are things that we're looking out and seeing how we can really put our mark at this point. And as I said, the president is leading that effort. He wants to see those things. He has a good outlook. I mean, having the education level and seeing what he's been able to see as he's gone and achieved that education. He's been able to bring that insight, and more importantly, even talking to different schools and et cetera, explaining to them where he came from and how he started off in life and what he did, and through his own efforts being able to obtain a doctorate degree. And now he's the president of the Navajo Nation at his age. And again, he's there forging that vision to these young people to say, you can make it happen. And so he's looking at a number of different areas to say, what can we do and how can we do it? And not only how can we do it, but let's go do it.
Right.
So that's been his message.
A great role model, it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Especially for the younger folks
exactly.
On the reservation. So very good. Well, Arvin Trujillo, it's great to visit with you again, even with this new job. And I hope you won't be a stranger. Come back anytime.
Okay. Appreciate that, Scott.
All right. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
That's Arvin Trujillo. Again, he is the new Executive Administrator for the Navajo Nation President's Office, Senior Advisor to President Dr. Boo Nygren on the Navajo Nation. My guest this morning on KSJE. KSJE and San Juan College present the Student Success Coaching Tip of the Week. Week 11, study with friends and study groups. Encouraging friends to study with you can make everything more fun and productive. Ask your classmates to study with you at a certain time and location. Studying together in person can help you hold each other accountable too. You don't want to be that person who cancels or doesn't show, right? Teaching a friend or family member or even your pet the material is a great way to see how well you know it. When you explain it to someone else, you'll have a better grasp of which information you already have mastered and which information you need to study. The Student Success Coaching Tip of the Week, presented by KSJE and the Student Achievement Center at San Juan College. KSJE is supported by the Durango Bluegrass Meltdown, April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd in Durango, Colorado. The Meltdown features walkable indoor venues with Missy Raines and Allegheny, The Cody Norris Show, Slow Can Ramblers, Tall Poppy String Band, and many others. There'll also be an old-time barn dance, band contest, workshops, jamming, and bluegrass in downtown bars. Find out more at DurangoMeltdown.com.